Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of Diamond Rivera Films, and here we have a special episode of Live Discussions with Diamond Podcast. And today, here, I have all the way from Florida, the one and only Mr. Daniel Castillo.
Thank you for having me here. We're gonna have some good discussions today.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, honestly, everyone, for many who don't know, Daniel Castillo is not only a great dancer down in the Florida area, particularly Orlando, but also has been making his name as a videographer in the scene down south. And seeing your visuals of really it means a lot, especially coming from me being a videographer, because like we've talked to offline as well,
Yeah,
consistency is key. So keeping your name and your presence relevant is definitely imperative during these times.
absolutely. And that's the thing I always say is just improving. Even the video things, even though we're stuck right now, like it's a passion for me. So even if I'm stuck, I'm still practicing. I'm still cooking videos, whatever I can get my hands on. I shoot it.
Absolutely, man. And for me too, like every one of my guests that I have on, I really feel like every episode is a true celebration of one's success, especially yours, especially from the story that you have. And we've talked about realizing the journey that it came from, especially all the way in Dominican Republic to get to where you are now.
From the island.
Yes, and we'll definitely get a lot deeper into that. But again, I'm really thankful that we could have you on tonight because again, I really feel it's important that people get to know Daniel not just for the work that you do in public, but also the person that you are behind it. So, for me, having you on tonight, it gives myself and the audience a deeper look into who you really are.
It's great. I'm ready. I'm excited.
Absolutely, man.
I know
So,
some other
from
people are excited too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just like a lot of my episodes as well, during the interview when we do have live comments coming in, we'll definitely be showing them throughout the interview. We'll definitely, hopefully, we have some spicy comments and some questions here for people because definitely this is a well anticipated interview, especially for me, but for as well as the audience. And I definitely really, as I always start with my interviews, we like to take things way back, and I mean way back. We're going before dance was even a thought in a sense, and for me, I can kind of tell the story, but I think you can do it way more justice than I can. So I would love to know, really, kind of from the beginning, where did it all start?
Well, let's go to the beginning. So first off, I'm Dominican. I'm real Dominican. I'm not New York Dominican. None of that. I was born in San Francisco de Macorís, República Dominicana, Dominican Republic. I was a farm boy. I picked chicken eggs. I lived the poverty life. I lived in a tin roof, outhouse. Like that's where I came from, and that's the life I lived most of my childhood. But it taught me a lot of like perseverance because it was just poverty and poor. I lived through different families. I met my dad when I was 25. Like, I didn't have really parents growing me up. I grew up with a grandma and different things. So life was tough as a kid. Then from there, I moved to Florida when I was 9. So from there, my mom brought me to the United States and I moved to Orlando. I lived here for 9 years, went to high school. Like, Orlando is my home. I love this place. So everything I do is here because I love it here. So from there, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. So I took another step. I always love challenges in life. I feel like I don't like taking the easy route. If there's a hard one, all right, let's go down that one. Let's see. Let's see if it's actually hard. It's always my question. Because so I did 4 years in the Marines. I served the country, deployed a bunch of places, traveled the world, did all that stuff, and eventually, from all that, being in the military and all that stuff, it brought me here into dance, like into the dance world, which is kind of crazy because I never thought I would be a dancer. Never in my life. I actually hated dancing. As a kid growing up,
Wow.
I had merengue house parties, salsa parties when I was a little kid, when I was 9, all the family dancing merengue and making me dance merengue. But it was something was forced by the family.
Yep.
It wasn't like a passion, like, oh, I'm gonna go
Mm-hmm.
dance like I do now. Like now I go out and dance all night because I love it, not because somebody's telling me to or it's, family related events and things like that. So all the way from there, my dance journey started in 2014 here in Orlando, like in our local
Wow.
community. I found a Groupon online for Bahari, which will get interesting further down the line. Found a
Yeah.
Groupon for Bahari. I started taking classes, and I was in love. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. Like, let's go. Let's invest money. Let me start traveling. let me take private lessons from the best. Like, let me just do whatever you need to do to become the top. Because as a Marine, that's kind of my mindset. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm not trying to be at the bottom of the pack or some mediocre average dude. I'm always trying to
Yeah.
be right at the competitive. But I'm hyper competitive, so we're here now promoting dancing, videography, and all these other things in this journey.
Absolutely. I mean, even you talking about starting in 2014, but really backtracking to when your time in the Marines, and like we've talked as well, realizing how much the military is actually involved in our dance community. I mean, from the countless amount of soldiers that I have met throughout the years, former Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, you name it, realizing how involved and many service members really feel like dance can be that escape. Because also, to realizing, I think it was during your, I believe, last 3 months in the military, you actually uh, happened, or a friend of yours actually kind of got you into
So the
that dance
story
setting.
was basically like I was in Orlando visiting. I was ready to getting out of the military. I had 3 months left, and I'm like, all right, I'm getting out. So I came to visit, and one of my closest friends from high school, he was like, hey man, there's a free night for military. It's a bachata night. Come down. Like they let military in free. Just bring your ID. I was like, yo, I don't know if I'm about that vibe. Let's just go to downtown Orlando and just
Yeah.
take shots and drink. And he's like, no, come to this dance thing. I think you might like it. Like you like bachata. You've been listening to bachata your whole life, just come check it out. It might look different to you. And I was like, all right, sure. So I walk into this place and there's all these people dancing like sensual bachata. And I'm like, yo, what are they doing? No, that's
Yeah.
nasty. Oh, that's what I want.
Yeah.
How do I get into this? How do I become part of these people? Like, I loved it. From then on, I was like, oh, I can do this. And I told my friend, once I get separated from the military, this is the first thing I want to do as a hobby.
Wow.
So,
And like you said too, you said you saw dancers dancing sensual bachata, and
sensual
realizing,
bachata.
especially you coming from Dominican Republic, and there's always kind of been that back and forth of what bachata is, that I've had these talks with many artists, but you yourself, a person from the Dominican Republic, coming to the U.S. and actually being like, your eyes are just captivated by what you're seeing, and
Correct.
it's a variation or a fusion of
Fusion of
what.
something else,
Yes.
because I've seen bachata my whole life. I grew up with it, and I've seen like street and what they do. I've had uncles that dance it, like what they call the traditional natural version since like the '90s. So for me, I'm like, okay, and like I've seen it. It's been part of that. But when I saw something like this, it was exotic. It was new.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason I got the exotica name, which we'll go
Yeah.
into further. But it was different for me. It like stood out, and I was like, oh, I like this. I like whatever this
Mm-hmm.
is. It's more connected. You're not ignoring your partner, kind of thing, like most traditional dancers do or Dominican dancers do, whichever one I say. But it was so connected. I was like, I want any of that. But I was also a person that grew up in the Romeo Santos and Fieles and all
Oh
that
man.
drama that they had in La
Yeah.
Aventura. So I grew up with all that drama, thinking, the cheating on your wife, that's cool, and all that, just putting it out in the lyrics. And I'm Spanish, and I only spoke Spanish, so I understand the lyrics.
Oh,
Like
okay.
90% of the people in this community don't. Like they don't even understand the lyrics of the song they're dancing to, what it's about. I'm out here singing it and like emphasizing "Quítate la ropa," trying to like
Yeah.
strip.
My man Biscuit, all the way from London here, man. He is another interviewer that does amazing interviews. Well, definitely, hopefully, we could set that up. Cause yes, man, Daniel Castillo, man, from when I first met him or just seen him, especially through Facebook, and then having the chance to meet him, same person, same. Just I love it, and especially as well, just yourself, like you said, over the years, starting in 2014, which we'll get back to, and kind of fast forwarding now and just realizing the totality of what you've been able to accomplish over the years, which we'll get into, is really important, especially in a dance community like Florida, that compared to New York, it's definitely different. Both cities are having events constantly, but as well, you then becoming in the future one of the leading organizers to some really large events that you've had. We'll definitely get into that. And for me, like you said, kind of going back now, we talked about, or you talked about, the first classes at Bahari. So I definitely would love for you to give me more information on what those first experiences are like, taking your first classes at a place like this.
I was fucking terrible. I had 2 left feet. I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, I wanted to quit. Dead serious. I wanted to quit because it just didn't make sense to me. I just didn't have anyone backing me. Oh, you can do this, you can do this. But the negativity from other people that like you can't do this, I was like, oh, I'm gonna fuck you up just because you said I can't do it. Just watch. But that's what changed. That's my mindset. Somebody tells me no, I'm gonna figure out a way. Anyway, it doesn't matter what it takes. Then, so I couldn't get it. My timing was off. I couldn't match the music. I didn't even really understand music. I just didn't know how to feel it. So it took a long time. I started taking private lessons and I worked really hard. So I used to work a security job here in Orlando at the Hyatt Regency Orlando, where as we will talk later, Unity or Dance Festival was happening. Um, so I used to work at that hotel, and even when I worked my night shifts, I would sit there do my basic across a 20,000 square foot ballroom, all the way through the end, all the way back, watching somebody's gear, just doing my basic, listening to bachata over and over and over and over. And I was like, if I do this enough, it's gonna become muscle memory where I don't even have to think and I need to do these things. They will happen. So I continued and continued and continued. So like my friends would find me asleep watching training videos in the living room from studying what I needed to learn to become better. I was knocked out. 4 o'clock in the morning, just working. I used to use my sister as a dance partner. Like, it was just passion. Once something gets me, I go extremely hard. That's why when I tell people I actually don't dance salsa, it's because there is no passion in salsa for me, in the music and the feeling and the thing. And I don't want to do something that I have to force myself to do. I just won't do it. I'm the kind of person that just say no. Even when I was active duty, if my commanding officer was like, hey, you need to jump off this bridge, I'd be like, no, sir, you can go fuck yourself. It's just not me. Like,
yeah, and that's the thing is, again, keeping in tune your whole core and realizing, like, you know what you want, you know what you're looking forward to. And like you said, starting off in dancing, it was just something you didn't want to do really in the beginning. And then, like you said, after a while, especially with the basic, realizing that if over time you constantly memorize this, it becomes muscle memory. After a while, then you can slowly, I guess, then start creating your own style.
essence, correct, because you don't have to think about the other things. Most of the times when I dance now, I think of what do I look like on the camera of the person who's recording me. Sorry,
I mean,
but say that. But most of the time, everything that happens to me is autopilot. It's already programmed. I know tension. I can study the follow super well. I can feel her energy. I can feel if she had a bad day at work. I can feel if she doesn't like me. I can feel all these things by just connecting with them and just taking that chance to breathe and feel and look, where a lot of other dancers just dance with everybody the same way. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, of course, then from after, fast forwarding after your kind of your first classes, and then slowly you're becoming more advanced from a beginner, slowly into intermediate and advanced going forward. What were those first experiences like? Kind of really getting your feet wet into the scene from the socials, congresses, and festivals. What are some of the memories that you kind of have from those times?
I mean, my biggest memory I have to say is still Dallas Bachata Festival in 2014. That was my first event. It was last minute. It was Wednesday. The event was Friday. I was like, fuck it, let's drive. We drove from Orlando, Florida to Dallas, Texas, like 1,600 miles. We didn't sleep overnight to make it to this festival just to learn more. And when we went there, it was my first festival. So I was like, whoa, there's this whole world of people and different dancers that all dance alike in this language, basically, because that's all it is. It's almost like a language in there. So we drove over there. I took Carlos Cinta's class. I took every single bachata dancers, Jorge Contreras, dancers that don't even dance anymore in our current era. I took all their classes. They won't remember me then because obviously, I wasn't nice and quiet always, just in the back listening, studying. And I'm an overanalyzer, so everything I hear, I study it, and I never really forget it. So that was my first experience for a Congress, so I always remember it to this day. I remember the drive and all the things that happened. From the moment I left that event, I knew I was like, okay, I'm going to chase to get good now. Like, I told myself, like, before I was just going to be, just a decent lead, but I was like, no, I'm hunting to get good now. Let me find idols, which were Daniel and Desiree. Those are the first people that I looked up to. I saw them, and I was like, ooh, they imitate the image of what I like in Central Bachata. So they were the first people that I kind of followed, and I followed them everywhere, all over the United States, Chicago, New York, any city they were in. I was like, all right, that's the event I'm going to.
Yeah, and I love is that I think for yourself kind of distancing yourself from other dancers was the drive. I think that's the really a key factor in understanding is the drive that you had in realizing something that you really started to love slowly turned into something you loved, and then soon after became a passion.
Correct.
And realizing like you had your life in the military, you left, and dance now became your new life.
Correct.
And then realizing then kind of from starting in 2014, do you remember the time that you've kind of realized like, hey, I can actually start teaching now and start kind of impacting my community?
Well, actually, I never thought I could start teaching until Christian Sola came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm looking for another dance instructor. You've grown so much." And this was within my first year in 2015. He said, "You've grown so much. Would you like to train with me and become one of the instructors for Bahari?" And I was like, "Oh my God. Yes, absolutely." I was super excited. That was like an honor to me. Like I was being asked to do this so quickly too, because I was still pretty new, but I was putting the effort in traveling and doing all the things that I was doing. So it showed. And he told me to do that. So from there, he just put me out to a class by myself a few times. He's like, just do what you think is right. And it was like fear because I am scared of being in front of people. Like being in front of people terrifies. Even though I have this exactly, and even though I have this extravagant personality everywhere, I'm always talking the loudest. I tell people I'm extroverted. I really don't want to talk to anybody. I just when I hide in my corner, I just know how to play a role. I know how to go out and act the way I need to act in certain places.
I got you. You know what it is? The key thing is you know how to adapt to every situation.
Correct. And you learn that when you're like in the military and the Marines, you learn to adapt to any situation. Like
and I know
you figure it out.
Absolutely. I mean, because just us talking here about that, there are people who are in the military that completely understand when you have to have, as they call it, the switch. You have to know when you have to switch it on and switch it off. Because, and for me, then meeting people like you, meeting people like Ray Colazzo, Sean Batista, Ace Fusion, Vladi, former military
I see
people.
Him commenting on the bottom of the
comments. Oh, yeah, man. Mr. Vladi over here with the oh shit. And then, of course, DJ Fat Tony over here.
Hey, one of our local DJs, one of our hometown favorites.
And then Sammy over here. And
last year, Orlando Festival, I had a great time. Sammy, you had some things that were fucked up. I gotta be honest, they happened. The hotel changes, but even then, that I had a blast at the event because you did the music correct. And that's another issue that I go with the music sometimes. Sometimes the music is like you have DJs who have a playlist and they just play, and like people like me who've been to these events 100 times, I know that you're playing the same shit. I can predict your songs. I can call them out. So when I call them out on their shit, they get offended. They're like, "Oh, who is this person calling me out on me not being a DJ?" Da 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 da.
I mean, it's the audience. I mean, is the customer always right or only right when you guys are on the same page? I think, and that's something I really loved was the complete honesty from you. I mean, from watching you on Facebook with visuals, but also being able to talk to you, realizing that, again, you love this community, but at the same time, you will speak up when you do see discrepancies and issues. And I think you hit a key point because a lot of dancers, we go to events all the time, congresses, festivals, weekenders, whatever you want to call it. And the main thing is people have to understand, it's not just the stage. It's not just the floors. It's not just the workshops. The DJs matter.
It's so big. It's like number one for me, honestly. Sometimes I look at a lineup and I look at the DJs and I'm like, okay, that tells me everything I need to know.
And
look at it and it tells me everything I need to know. Like,
it's true.
Because some people are buddies. Like some of these organizers, but they're buddies with some DJs and they'll hire them just because they're taking shots at the club and some things, even though the DJ's not very good at all and he's terrible.
Yes.
So I call it selective listening. They're just like, "Oh, he's good. But I'm like, no.
But
I started doing that when it came into the dance scene. Even as a new dancer, when I would experience a bad festival, I would say it. I would do a review and I would put where it was that, and people were like, "Oh, you should be more grateful that you got to attend." I'm like, "No, bitch, I paid $1,000 to attend.
Yeah,
have a good time too. What do you mean?
Oh man,
grateful?"
And it's true. I mean, because that's the thing I think that lacks is a lot of just the complete honesty. Because again, I completely understand where that person is coming from of saying, "Hey, the organizer, event promoter, whoever it may be, created this event that you're able to come to, but also it's a reciprocation because if I'm paying my money, I would love to have a hotel that treats me nice. I'd love to have floors on a dance floor. I'd love to have quality, high quality shows if I'm paying close to 100 to maybe 120 a person
Well,
per
no,
full.
actually, if you're gonna give me $100 for a festival, I'll let you slide on a few things. Now, if I'm paying like
Mm.
250, like Orlando Salsa Congress,
Oh
then
wow.
I expect perfection,
Oh no,
obviously.
absolutely. And see, that's also the difference. This is what we see here is that when it comes to money and realizing, because I've also been to events that the full passes have been close to that range, but the quality of the event suffers as well.
Yeah.
Because we paid so much for these artists, but we really didn't pay enough for everything else. And the reason I can say that, and I think you can say that, is because besides dancers, we're also behind the lens. We also work with these organizers. We
Yep.
also go to these events. And the difference is when we go to a Congress now, we don't just say, hey, let's go to the dance floor, see the shows. No, we're actually kind of more focused on everything else that's happening behind the scenes. Is everything
Correct.
organized? Is show starting on time? Is tech rehearsal starting
I
on
mean,
time?
it got to the point where when I was blogging, I would see it. I would be in festivals and everything would show up in my blogs and I would say it. I'm like, oh, this is late or this is late. And I know some people might get upset, but if I paid money for the festival, I'm allowed to say it. That's why I feel like sometimes artists won't say it. They're always going to back their things up no matter what issues are because it's going to keep them a job.
Yeah.
They say nice things even though the event wasn't bad. That's why sometimes I like going to these events. That's a neutral person to let you know what it's really about. Like, I'm gonna say it. Like, I'm friends with Vladi, but even then, like the first time I went to New Jersey, there was like roaches all over the hotel. There was like leaking. There
Mm.
was a hurricane happening, and I was like, "Yo, what's happening at this Hotel ML?
Yeah.
Like, it's a dump." Like, I was straight up like, "This place is a dump." So it kept me from going back to New Jersey Bachata Festival for forever. Now, obviously, leadership has changed. People have changed, and time grows. So I would go back to see if there's been changes. But the first time I went to that event, I was like, "Whoa, what the hell's happening?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
just try a little harder in certain things. I know you want to be cheap sometimes, but it's difficult because at the same time, these organizers aren't making money off a lot of these events. Let's be real
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Yeah, yeah, and people, me speaking to organizers as well, I think what the resounding notion is, and I've heard from many organizers, is when they're creating an event, there's a 1 to 3 year window where you're going to either break even, you're going to lose money, or you're going to gain a profit. And from that, usually you understand where your event is going to go. And realizing, too, I think organizers should be talking more with their performers, their artists. They should be talking with everyone. They should be having meetings and forums to understand how can we build on becoming a better event. And me and you as well have talked as well for years. Is that I think that's what really is missing is truly people constantly speaking out and saying, "Hey, this is what we want to see change. This is what we want to see improve." Because if we are coming here year after year, we would love to see progression.
That's
You
the
know,
part, progression, all of it,
yeah,
and everything you do in life, progression. So when I go to, like I said, when I go to events and they're stagnant, I just don't go the following year. I just trying to find something new and
yeah.
everything. Like last year, I really enjoyed Brandon's event, Phoenix Bachata Festival. That was one
Mm-hmm.
of the events like I enjoyed the most because I knew there was so much effort put into it. Like the quality of everything at that event was great. Like I was like, I could not wait to be back to Phoenix. If there's one event, two events that I have to go to, Phoenix and Bachateando are the two because I love the beach and then I
Mm-hmm.
love that energy that the community and everything set at that event. And I've been to all of the events,
Yeah.
Tampa Salsa Bachata Festival like 5 times, New York Salsa Congress, all up and down the East Coast, everywhere. And for me, Phoenix kind of like put it right on where I was like, oh, this is what an event should almost feel like. Like even
Mm-hmm.
the way the resort was and everything, it made it just different feel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I appreciate just having your feedback on how you truly feel, how you personally feel about what you look for in events. Because again, that's only going to help the organizers and promoters improve the quality because you have to know what the people want in order to give them what they need. And
Yes.
now understanding when you kind of got that role put on you to teach and now you're kind of in a different setting. What were those experiences like for you? And meaning that, coming from just being a social dancer now you're actually a teacher. Now you're instructing the mass amount of people in your community, and now you're kind of looked at, I would say, in a sense, differently, and more of a different pedestal. Did you kind of feel that, or it kind of was more of a natural feeling for you?
The teaching was difficult because I don't like standing in front of people and talking. So for me, I was very like shy. I didn't know how to like speak out. It was just like I didn't know how to command the class or things like that. How to actually take control of the student. And that's why I said when the military stuff kicked in again, I was like, well, this is how drill instructors teach at boot camp, and they
Oh
get
God.
me ready for war in 3 months. Well, there's got to be a
Yeah.
way to teach bachata people really quick. I'm gonna just take the same system and filter
Hmm.
it to bachata, the finest military force in the world. I take the same knowledge and just basically filter it and use it in my classes. So once I started doing that, I started to build confidence, and I started like being basically a bachata drill instructor in my classes. Like things are snappy, they go, they're clear, they're precise, they're accurate. People know I don't stutter. I
Hmm.
don't speak a language that I struggle with where I'm like, he kind of said this. Like it's clear instruction, it's professional instruction. And that's what I learned in the military, in the Marines, to
Yeah.
give that. So when people come to my classes, they always get the same effect. They leave and they're like, oh my God, no one is ever taught like that. I was like, I know, I've been to hundreds of congresses. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and again too, I think too the what people have to understand is when you're becoming a teacher, you have a different responsibility for your students because you have to, in a sense, show them something different than what they're already used to. And even though what you're teaching truly is in a simplistic form, for them it's complex. For them it's
Right.
like, wow, I didn't know someone could teach like that. Even Vladi says the bachata drill instructor.
Yes.
And I mean, of course, as a former Marine himself, he understands. And realizing too is that you instilled that instruction to them, and it kind of becomes a memory for them as well.
Correct. And that's what I try to do. I try to get you to come to my class and learn something out of it. And I always tell people, if there's only one thing you can take out of this class, take it. For me, my most important class in the entire time I've been dancing, Daniel Sanchez said one word. It was never the movements that happened in the class. He said, Sancho Bachata is 50% acting and 50% dancing. You have to balance the two to create a perfect harmony. And from there, I was like, all right, let me figure that out. And that's when I started including the acting and all the other things. But for me, that changed a lot in the way I dance just by what someone said, the words that someone said. It just registered in my head. So things like that, just take something out of the class when you go in and practice it and make sure that it's established. Because if you go to a bunch of classes and you just don't remember any of it, you just didn't get anything out of any of it.
But
You
but
get
like you
something
said, the
out of
key word
something.
is you. You as the person
Yes,
chose not to get something out of it.
correct.
And realizing too, I think what's really important and that we've talked about is that for you, you understand yourself as a dancer. Meaning, especially when it comes to dancers in the scene, there's a path you normally would take, whether you're going to be an instructor or you're going to be a performer or you love to do social dancing. And what I love is that when we've talked, you've even said you prefer to be a social dancer. And that's
Yes.
something I love hearing because I think we don't hear it enough. Because many people just talk about, and I believe you even told me you've
Look,
performed before.
go ahead. I mean, for me, like the dancers that don't social dance, I hate them. Sorry, it's not personal, but the social dancers that I don't see ever come down, I'm like, no, I wanted to dance with that follow or that person or
Yeah.
see them, but they just never come down. They just stay hidden, and their job is just to teach, show,
Oh my
and that's what they
God.
do. That's what they do. I respect that. That's their job. But for me, it's social dancing, improvising, the ability to change in the moment in a split second. I made a mistake or something or feeling, connecting, just that it's free, that I can
Mm-hmm.
represent my music to every song differently, and I don't have to do this same choreography 200 times. Like anybody can get good at something that they do over and over and over and over and over and over. I
Yeah.
mean, when I was in military, we did drill for 3 months, and every single person learned that exact drill because it was just a choreography. We just kept doing it over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it turns into muscle memory. The same way if you do your basic a million times, you spend 28 hours a day doing your basic. Your basic's gonna get good very damn fast. The same way
Yeah,
as choreography.
absolutely. You put those 10,000 hours and you're going to get something out of it.
Agreed. And social dance is the same way. That's why I put them in two territories. If you have 10,000 performance hours and I have 10,000 social dance hours, I'm obviously going to be a much better social dancer. You're going to be a much better performer. It's two different kind of aspects, and you learn more as you go through it. There's never an ending of it. You're always learning. You're always a
Yeah.
student. People say it all the time. In the Marine Corps, I used to learn every time. My drill instructor always told me, if you're not learning, then you're not going anywhere. If you're not training, you're not doing
Yeah.
anything in your life. You have to always be training for something, being ready. That's why I went to the gym,
Yep.
training, just get myself back, keep my body in shape while we're going through this standstill.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really seems to me what I love is that you're a person that doesn't love complacency. Because I think especially in our community, especially dance community, for years we've been kind of complacent, or from the conversations I've had with many dancers and artists, the biggest thing is complacency of sometimes people are so used to just seeing the same thing that there needs to be a breath of fresh air. There needs to be a new because again, we always have a new generation of dancers.
Correct. There will always be the next generation, and I learned from the previous generation, and it will always be better. I always tell people the creator of basketball is not the best player. Michael Jordan was about 100 years later. It
Yeah.
didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Like the best people at these things are not popping up. Bachata's only the dances, the fusions, and all these things have been around what 20 years, maybe max. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no one at the top of any of these things. It's how much you work and how much you want to be part of that. So for me, it was all of it, promoter, all that stuff, all these things, because I did things like this in the military. And when I was
Yeah.
active duty, I was they called it the single Marine planning manager. So I made Marines go out and find girls and stuff like that, plan trips, put them on battleships and cruises and all these things. But I used to plan parties for Marines that were single.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing. I was the single guy. So it was a job that I did in active duty, where outside it was just hosting different events. Bachata. I know what it takes to host. I know what it takes for people to have a good time. And I try my best to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and realizing again that over the years, as of course you get more advanced, you practice and practice and practice, and I would say for yourself, then kind of transitioning into becoming an instructor, I think definitely over those years you've been able to kind of understand what's something you love about this scene and the things that you have really big concerns about. And for a person like yourself that I see that truly is honest, can you really kind of say from over the years to the last 6 years you've been really in this scene, what have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned over the years?
Um, let me start. Let me start with good in the scene. The things that I've learned. I become a lot nicer since I became in the scene, like more compassionate towards people. Before I was very like rah right away. Now I'm more like, okay, I have to calm down. It's People are a lot kinder here. Like you can go into a dance environment and women will come up to dance with you. Go try that in a nightclub. Ain't
Yeah.
nobody gonna ask you to dance. No, it's a hostile environment going from that.
Yeah.
I mean, to the dance scene, and there's people. Even when I was a beginner, there was girls asking me to dance. Hey, would you like to dance? Like, yeah, sure. There's always kind of opportunity in that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go to negative because there's a few things. So negative, let's
Okay.
start with one. I guess the leads, I guess, like a lot of the guys, the sensual stuff, they don't know it, but they try it. They see us do it, but they don't understand the
Mm.
technicality and the little things that are happening inside of these dances and stuff. So they're rough. And I see that we see it in our videos. Both of us are videographers. We review footage from all these events we go to, and I be seeing dudes grab girls' hair. Like, I'm like, wait. Okay, that's not how you do the back dip. Like, what are you doing? Hitting them in the forehead.
Oh my
I
God!
know some
Yes,
people do the face
the
to
tap to the
face, like
forehead. Yeah.
tap to the forehead. I'm like, bro, when you do the tap to the forehead, no.
No,
Okay.
and she's just
But
looking
there's a
at you
few things
like,
I just see, like, I'm just like, oh, wow. Like, and just a lot of the dudes are just rough. It's one of the things I do. Like, I
mm-hmm.
sit there and I people watch a lot, and they're just
Yeah.
super violent with the follows. And then they don't want to dance, which creates a problem. Now, we have a lack of males in the dance community. So if you go to any festival, there will usually be more women than men, because more women is just want to dance in general. And at the same time, men are very intimidated when it comes to dancing sometimes. So they'll just stand there
Yeah.
and be wallflowers for
Yeah.
hours. So you have all these girls sitting down, and none of these guys asking them or willing to dance. So it creates kind of like a thing where it's just men become afraid, almost afraid, and they leave the scene. They're just like, oh, intimidated by the scene. They're intimidated by seeing good dancers dance and stuff like that, and it kind of drowns it out. And retention rate is what I feel like. There's always people that come in, come out, come in, coming out. It's just, it would be nice if there was a way to keep people more in. If the community was in a different way, more welcoming, where more people were like, oh, I want to stay here. I don't want to leave. Like, this is nice. I'm enjoying. I'm learning. The guys are nice to me when I go out dancing. My neck doesn't hurt. Like, all these things. Like, they're paying attention to me. The creepers are not around. We have creepers in the that are.
We have creepers here too in New York City. You've got creepers everywhere, and just hearing you, we have the same ideas, the same similarities, the same concerns. Because especially New York, where of course we had traditional, which was the mainstay. It shifted to Moderna with Ataca Alemana, and then the Central kind of came in 2013, 2014.
Yeah, right at the time.
And realizing too the lack of understanding that leads have. And I'm not just going to say male leads, even female leads, but leads in general, of not knowing weight placement, not knowing foot transfers, not knowing balancing, because especially if you have over 100 pounds over your follow, you have to understand that the movements, they have to be fluid. Or you can, I've heard stories when I went to Congress last year from a female saying that she went to an event in Jersey and she literally had a spinal surgery months after because a guy dropped her and then fell on top of her. After, what did he try to do? A dip. And this is a person, a female now, has to literally, her life has changed because a male tried to overcompensate.
Right. So the big thing is the dip thing. Every guy wants to dip. I don't think it should be taught right away. I think they should wait, but it's something that they teach. I don't even use them as much anymore. I use so many different ways you can
use the
stop.
body roll. You a body roll.
Use so many ways you can stop to a hit to the music nowadays. I'm like, you don't have to do a dip every single time. There are different ways. Even just stopping to the music and connecting with the person in front of you, and when the beat comes out, just coming out of it. It's just little things you can do sometimes. But everybody wants to do the dip because it's a nice, cool, flashy thing. And some of them don't know how to do it. Some of them are falling. I was in New York just this year in January there for an event with Daniel and Desiree.
Yes, I heard about that event. I definitely did.
Anna was hosting it, and I was there, and I would see that, and I was watching all the dancers in New York, and people kept asking me, "Are you an instructor? Like, who are you? Like, how do you dance? How you dance?" Because they didn't know who I was from Florida. I just showed up, and I like that. I like being incognito, showing up, putting the hoodie on, and just rolling in and dancing with everybody, walking back out. Yeah, so and it was different. I got to see that in there, and I was like, "Damn, dudes are rough. Like, the girls are not kidding." Because before I used to like downplay it. I used to be like, oh, I hate dancing Central Bachata because my neck hurts and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, it shouldn't hurt. People do it in proper technique and proper movements. And then I go to places and 70% of the men are not doing proper technique and proper movement. And I was like, got it. This is why other injuries are happening.
It's really, you know what it is? And my biggest concern from over the years of dancing, from traveling different places as a videographer or a performer, there is a true oversaturation of people who consider themselves teachers. I think, in my humble opinion, saying it as nicely as I can, that to be honest, in terms of like we say, our community is big, but it is small. And I think in many cities, including Florida, and not cities, but in places like Florida, places like New York, there's almost a dance studio everywhere. Every city, county, borough may have you. And I think a lot of times these people who consider or call themselves teachers don't really have the full knowledge. They take a year or two of classes, and that's just my opinion. That's been an issue that I've seen over the years.
Well, I bracket it kind of differently. So let me use an example. MMA fighters, they're mixed martial artists. They are still artists like dancers. They do art, mixed martial artists. But an MMA fighter, a mixed martial artist fighting against a boxer, in a boxing match will get his ass kicked by a boxer. The same way, if, like I say, if you're like a 3-in-1 dancer and you dance 3 different dances, and this one person only dances with this one dance, he will still be more proficient at that one dance than this person. at three dances. Like people are like, oh no, that's not true. Yeah, no, it's true. Look, Mayweather and what's his name that fought. It's just because like me, I spend all my time in that one art. All my hyper focus is in that one thing to make that one thing look as best as it can without wasting my time on other things that would reduce time for what I can make my bachata better. I can learn something new and all that stuff. So I always say like different people who are already dancers, they're coming from a different culture and they're like, oh, bachata's easy. It's 1, 2, 3, tap. I'm just gonna do it, and then they look like chicken with no seasoning, like just dry, like just straight up, no sauce at
that
all.
That bland
like,
chicken. Oh,
I'm like, yeah, you're doing the steps, but it just takes so much more rhythm, so much more character to actually look good doing it. There's a difference looking good doing it and being able to do it. But they already feel like they're instructors in whatever else they were teaching, and they just can take this dance and add it to the menu of classes they can sell. And now you have a whole bunch of them teaching bachata who are not even passionate about, and they don't even know songs. I'm like, yo, you a song, and they're like, what? What's that? I'm like, really? Like, they just don't know the music. They don't know the things. They don't know it's just they're not even passionate about it, but they just do it because it's another line of revenue. It's another line of revenue that adds under their salsa, under whatever, and they might be respected for these arts already. They're just trying to add another line of revenue that they can make money from. And some people see them that they were amazing in this thing, and they automatically assume, oh, this is the other thing that they do amazingly. But like people like me, I can see it. I look at it and I'm like, oh, damn, you don't even know Spanish, bro. Yeah. I'm like, okay, you're doing my dance, which is in Spanish. Yeah. And you don't even know the language or understand what's happening in the music. So for me, it feels hard when I see that. I'm like, I don't even know it. Like, so I just skip through a lot of videos. Like I watch all these videos most of the time, and even in the Spain culture, is different for them. It's a different Spanish than like coming from like Dominican island, or the way Romel or Prince Roy would feel, which, you know, they're American Dominicans, but still they are Dominican in the essence, and I can relate to what they're saying and the feelings and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And, you know, now it kind of helps me transition into understanding, as I do. We have a little segment here to kind of give some life to everything. Is the segment I call the randoms, which is about 10 questions. You have about 5 to 10 seconds each to answer each question. This here allows myself and the audience to get to know you on a deeper level, but in a shorter amount of time. So just let me know, are you ready?
Hit it. Let's go.
All right. First one is your favorite food.
Pizza. I just had pizza like 5 minutes ago. I gotta go with it.
Favorite workout song.
Right now, Drake, Pop Star.
Okay. I like that. Next one is your dream vacation destination.
Jamaica.
Okay. Next one would be your favorite Congress.
Phoenix.
Okay. Phoenix Bachata Festival. Yes,
Phoenix.
Yes, with Brandon Odom. Next one would be, what is your spirit animal?
Wolf.
All right. Next one, partner work or footwork?
There's a new Daniel nowadays, so I gotta go both.
All right. I like that approach.
6 months ago, I would have said partner work all day. I've been working on something new.
All right. I like that. We'll definitely get into that. And next would be, what would be your superpower?
Reading minds.
I like that. A lot of people have had that. 3 most influential people to you at this moment.
Wow, that is tough. 10 seconds to answer this. At this moment. Okay, there's a UFC fighter by the name of Endesanya. He just recently retained the middleweight title.
Israel Adesanya. Yeah. I love MMA. I'm a big MMA fan.
I respect that man. He knew that middle class was trash. And he's cleaning house. I respect when people know what's in front of them. So who else? Kevin Durant, the basketball player.
Okay.
Ice cold. I love the way he plays the game, the way he thinks about it, serial killer and what he does. The mentality is just to win kind of thing. And I would say Michael Jordan last, and that's a recent one because I saw his documentary like 3 months ago, and and inspired me to like
Yeah,
wake
the
up.
Last Dance is definitely a hitter, and as well too. This is New York, so if you hear some sirens, just it
Hey,
is what it is. It's
hey, it is what it is.
but and I love that too, that you kind of have those sports correlations and understanding like just how much sports means to you, but people's stories. I think that's really where it hits. And my last two questions would be then a special talent that many or some people wouldn't know that you have.
I'm actually a computer geek. I am extremely good with computers. I know how to hack into things. People make me
Okay.
mad. I know how to get into. I'm
Okay.
very good at finding the dark web, the dark net. I venture. I know the internet better
You're a
than you can
troll, so that's what
imagine.
you're telling us. That
I'm a hyper troll. I am the troll of trolls.
oh
So,
man.
but I'm very good with the internet. I was a computer geek. I did computer science as my
Hmm.
first major. Computer design. I grew up as a little kid breaking computers apart and fusing them together, just
Mm.
trying to figure out how to make these parts work, how the CPU operating, cooling
Yeah.
chip, all these things. I was just fascinated by that as growing up, and I still do it to this day. I know how to repair electronics, screens,
Hmm.
iPhones, hack into them, remove the iCloud locks.
Wow.
And last time I checked, the FBI is struggling with
That
that.
definitely is a special talent, and now it leads me to my last question would be, and this might get a little more deep, is if you were on an island, what are three things that you would have to have with you?
Oh, let's see. Water, a
Okay.
knife, some rope.
All right. Water, knife, and a rope. I think that definitely helps. I mean, water would be essential. So I mean,
Give me a life for a little bit while I take that knife, carve out some trees, take the rope, make a craft, get out.
yep. Look, there you go. But again, man, thank you so much for having this little segment because it definitely
Thank you.
allowed myself and the audience as well to get to know a little bit more about you in a quicker time. And it does help me kind of transition into understanding before even the present day. I mean, when I did meet you in person, was at the Unity Dance Festival last year. For me, I had a great time at that event. I was able to like even film people like yourself
Yep.
and so many of the Florida dancers. And for me too, in understanding, especially through social media, you get to understand different communities differently and realizing, especially now, what we've really been going through as a dance community globally. I wouldn't just say in Florida, the States, but globally realizing for a couple months, our scene was kind of non existent or it definitely took a step back. And there, at some points in certain states and cities and countries, in a sense, there weren't any dance events, and it kind of made us have to kind of start in square one. So really, for me, I would love to understand for you over the past few years, from going from just a novice learner to becoming an instructor, kind of fast forwarding in the last year and a half, like what have been the greatest lessons and memories that you've been able to obtain thus far? I would say honestly, pre-COVID, in a sense, what you've been especially as a teacher. What are the biggest lessons that you've been able to learn?
Well, I mean, my biggest lesson as a teacher is that our voice is powerful as teachers.
Hmm.
So if I say something in my class, some people take it home. So whatever I say in class, whatever metaphors I give them and things I give them life lessons. I try to be their life coach while I'm teaching you at the same time. I try to show real life in my classes with your real life. I try to help make those connections to make things easier, like all that stuff. So as a teacher, I really learned that I could inspire people. I started
Hmm.
realizing, oh, some people will actually listen to me because I
Yeah.
don't listen to me sometimes. So I realized that I had to be careful with the things I said and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So when I go to my classes, I became more like professional and tactful and like learn to operate in just not a way where I was always kind of crazy because that's what I did. It was very drastic. So it calmed me down and like center my focus. It was like,
Hmm.
all right, I'm an instructor. I'm a leader here. People respect the things that I do. They come to my events. I have to kind of represent that way in a sense. So, and then as well, Unity, let's go into that. Yes, we
Yeah.
did meet at Unity last year, but
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and the way I want to lead into that is understanding, of course, right now we've been going through this past few months with COVID and quarantine and everything that's been going on. We've realized in different cities, states, may have you, that regulations are different and restrictions are lifted in certain capacities, especially when it comes to New York and Florida. For me, those are the two synonymous areas that have been hit really hard over these last 8 months. But of course, especially with Florida, restrictions have been lifted much faster than other places. And like we're talking about now, in the recent days, we've seen interviews with people like Neander Lima talking about the upcoming, actually next week, I believe it's next week, the Unity Dance Festival. And realizing, as you talked earlier, that you were once a student of Christian, and fast forwarding now, you being one of the leading roles and leading instructors, realizing how that has been affecting you as being a teacher, and now realizing you're having this type of event that is coming to your city.
Well, I only have like 3 minutes, so I'm going to cover this really, really, really quick. So
No problem.
So for like Unity for the event, like I said, in the Christian solo thing, a lot of people think it's like I'm out to get him or I'm trying to bully him. It's not that way. It's always been like a back and forth thing, even from the moment I was a student all the way to like now 6 years that I've known him. So like the Unity thing, just tell people if you want to go support the event because it's dance and I support dance. So for me, I even went to the event last year because I support dance.
Yeah.
But I just didn't support him as a person and what he does as a person. So it's two different things. So so that's where I want to leave it in that one because I have to head out. But it's not a personal thing. And I always tell people it's not personal. I'm not here trying to destroy his business. I'm not trying to cut off the parts, the hotel, and all these things that he fantasizes that I'm trying to do. No, like it's not that. I just want people to be aware of what they're buying. And Neander covered all of that perfectly. And that's why I don't want to touch too much in it, but for me, it's not a personal thing. I'm not sitting here trying to like destroy anyone's anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just want you to know what this person has done and all these things, so you're aware. If you want to go, dance is dance. Go have a good time and get your ticket. So
absolutely, you know, honestly, and I'm glad that I've been able to have you on tonight as briefly as we can, and just kind of picking your brain and understanding your journey. And again, I've been really thankful to have you. And, you know, for me, I think it's very important that we have more instructors like yourself that are really putting out the good word. And I definitely hope in the future that, you know, when things get back to, of course, a new normal, that we can have a scene and get back together. But at least before we go, you're able to give us any contact information that people can reach you as well.
Yes. Follow me on my Instagram page, Daniel Sensual, my Facebook page, Daniel Sensual, Daniel Castillo, either one. You'll see my classes. So I do a lot of things here in Orlando and Florida, all of the state of Florida in general, but I'm expanding. I've been to New York. You'll find me at congresses. So Daniel Sensual, it's a pretty easy name to find. Instagram, Facebook, you'll see my videos and all the work that I've done in videography. So.
Absolutely. And definitely, hopefully in the future, we can have you again. And we're definitely going to, hopefully in the future, get more into the videography because I love your work. So I know you're a busy man, but I'm glad we've been able to have you on this long. And again, thank you for everything you've been able to talk to us about. And definitely people get ready for part 2 to this interview where we're going to really touch more on a lot more topics. And again, thank you, Daniel, for your time. And definitely we'll be in contact soon.
Perfect. Take care. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night, everyone. Take care.